What is an eponym? A person after whom a discovery, invention, or place is named or thought to be named. There are very few eponyms in the hunting industry. A product so popular and so functional, it becomes the act of the product. So how does something become an eponym? It's the best, hands down. Hey everybody, before the show starts tonight, got to tell you about something Exodus has going on. They've been in business now for 7 years. And they've been making quality products that flat out work for the last 7 years. From May 20th until June 13th, you can use the code YEAR7 to save 20% off their entire website. That includes the Borderline Bulletproof Exodus Render, any Render bundle, the SP18 solar panel, and any of the merch they have on their website. If you've been on the fence about any of the Exodus products, right now is a perfect time to buy you one. They have the 5-year, no BS warranty, 5-year theft and damage coverage, and the best class customer service on the market. They're also a great group of guys that go above and beyond for their customers with all their podcast platforms and their great YouTube channel, Exodus Outdoor Gear. So, use code YEAR7 at checkout to save 20% off the entire Exodus website. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. It's Thursday night again, Dan.
Thursday night live.
Yeah, when we started this, it used to be dark out. Now it's light at 7 or 8, whatever time you're at right now.
Yeah, I liked it better when I was in the shadows.
Yeah, in the cave. How's the building coming along? Any updates on it?
Oh, it's been a nightmare.
Yeah,
it's just been one cluster after another. They I don't know, they just messed everything up. They told me I had a $500 refund. I went down to the store to get it and they turned it to $300, and I'm like, how do you get 300 out of 500? And I was just so flustered I just took it.
Yeah,
that was from selling me the stuff that was too expensive that I didn't need.
Yeah,
they sold me the wrong stuff, the wrong trusses. So I got that switched out. I had to get them to send me the blueprints. They never sent them. I'm sure I'm missing other stuff. I believe the builders are going to get here this weekend and start inventorying things.
I was going to ask you when they're scheduled to start.
It's kind of family and friends, so
right.
They run a construction business, but the people who are whining and complaining, they'll get dibs before me. I'm easy going. I can't get doors for the building until October anyways.
Yeah.
So
what's the big rush really? Can't do much without doors,
Right.
At least not, nothing productive inside of it at least. But oh well. Did your last week before the show, you about missed the show because of you were planting a food plot? How'd that turn out? Did you get it done?
I just sprayed it, and it's still green, so I'm waiting for it to die.
How big is it?
Small. It's quarter acre.
Yeah, that's all I've been doing lately is spraying. I feel like my dad bought 4 acres next to me here. He wanted me to spray it, so I've been spraying it with Roundup and 2,4-D, and then I sprayed my clover plot the other night too. So, about tired of spraying. Eric, I did not catch a branch in the eye. I caught a pair of needle nose pliers, but I look a lot better than I did this Monday. So thanks for noticing. Dan thought I had something on my face. So anyway, we got a good guest. He's actually a repeat guest pre-live show. Eric Husebo of Trophy Adventure Bear Baits. A lot of you guys, if you went to the Hill Country Workshop this year, Eric hosted us there. We did all the pre and post workshop stuff in his shop, and he's known for his bear bait and his achievements hunting bear. So, killed a giant bear with had a lot of his history, real recently. So, anything else you want to talk about before we bring Eric on, Dan?
I don't know what's going on new.
Nothing. I've been tinkering with my bow a little bit, shooting a little bit. My dad's going back to a compound from a crossbow, so I've been kind of gathering stuff for him, kind of building him something. He's going to shoot my old bow because I got a new one. So I don't know. That's kind of what I do this time of year is tinker with. I don't know. It's scouting. I don't do much scouting in June. I usually get ready with my gear and all that kind of stuff. And bought a new spotlight. So off of a recommendation on here, I think. So whoever, I can't remember who recommended it, but I appreciate it. So we'll see. I'm going to put it to use this July. But do you shoot? Someone asked me a question the other day, messaged me on Facebook asking me, how much do you scout in the spring nowadays? How much do you do? How much do you scout now?
I don't know, probably 5 or 6 full days, which is way less than I'd like. But I end up trying to help some friends. I end up editing videos and stuff. I just don't have the time. But I get 5 or 6 days in, and I'm always depressed that I didn't get enough in. I always feel pressure from people. I mean, people want me to go scout their property or something, and I'll be busy, and they'll seem desperate, really want help, and then I'll end up doing it. And, it eats into my time.
Yeah, plus you guys are, when you do have free time, it seems like you're messing with something on hunting beast gear or whatever, Yeah,
I need to be more organized with that stuff. I think I'd like to maybe get you involved in the property scouting thing, and maybe next year you can plan the dates and schedule the stuff and talk to the people, and then I can just allot so many days and what I can put into it, and that way I don't get overwhelmed, because I have a hard time telling people no and stuff.
Yeah, it'd be even cool, like next summer, on this show, just like if we have a property that's good to talk about or something, we could talk about it on the show and have the landowner on or whatever.
Well, I think too. I mean, we give a little discount or something on people that allow us to film the property. I mean, it's private property. It's not like anybody can trespass or anything.
Yeah.
I mean, we won't show exactly where it is, but we film it, and I think that would be a good learning experience for everybody. Like look at a property and how do we go about scouting it? How do we go about finding this stuff? And the two of us go and rip it apart. And I'd rather do properties like that than the secretive ones, because it really ain't about the money more, I like it to be an education.
Yep.
That'd be one.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's get Eric on here, because we'll have a lot to talk about with Eric. It may leak over to more than just it may leak over more than just bear hunting too. So go ahead.
I sent Eric an email or a text. I mean, asked him if I could come up this weekend and pick up some bear bait and what he was recommending, kind of thing. And he texted me back, "I just shot a big bear." And I was like, "What? Oh, you just shot one? What are you spring hunting?" He says, "Yeah, I swear." He says, "Up in Ontario." And you got a hell of a bear, one that's well known.
Yeah.
So I think this would be kind of cool to talk to him about it.
Yeah, for sure.
I love bears, you know. And
Yeah, I want to.
quite the whitetail hunter, so I mean, he's probably
Mm-hmm.
got the input there too. If people want to talk to him about that.
Yeah, for sure. And just I think hunting in general. What I mean, he's traveled all over the world and hunting. If people have questions about that kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
Um,
Actually, his wife's going to kill her too. You should almost have her.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I asked her. She said no. She didn't want to be. So I didn't push it. Maybe Eric can talk her into it. Before we get Eric on, I completely forgot to say this at the beginning, which I think it's probably better to say it now. But if you guys have questions, you can leave them in the comments. I know a lot of you are repeat customers, but leave them in the comments. You can also hop on and ask your question live. Oftentimes we give away prizes if you hop on here live and I remember. We'll give something away tonight. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, it helps us up. That's probably the best way of supporting what we're doing is subscribing. All right. I'm going to bring Eric up here.
Hey, Eric.
Hey.
How we doing?
How's it going, man?
It's excellent.
Good.
Be careful,
Good.
there's a giant brown bear behind you.
Yeah. He's getting ready to take a dump on your head, it looks like. Yeah, he's been stuck like that for a while, huh?
Yeah, he's had enough.
Yeah, good. I think we talked about that on the podcast you were on, the non-live one.
Yeah, we did.
So if anybody wants to hear the story of that bear, you can jump on. I'm not sure what episode it was. Maybe, I don't know, probably single digits. It was pretty early on. Maybe not. Maybe in the teens. But it's the other one with Eric Husebo. So, so you killed a pretty nice bear that you guys had some history with.
Yeah, it was more than unexpected, actually. He's had such a big range up there, and we've got, I would say, probably a 50-mile area that we hunt, and we've got
before you get too far, Eric. What range are you talking about? Where's up there at? It's just so people know where you're
just
at.
Across the border in Ontario.
Okay.
Literally, and I'll throw a quick plug out to the guy that worked so hard up there for us for many years. It's Ken Angus. Ken Angus is from Emo, Ontario. He's just an old feller that's lived there his whole life. You know, he lives and dies for the bears, and he always gets the baits running for us. And then we get up there, and I've kind of had a mentality for probably close to 15 years up there where, he'll use his what I call Canadian mix, which them bears, they definitely go after it. They use it. They like it. I like to go up there and kind of spice things up. I try to use some of my own stuff that I bring. And it seems to me like once I get them on that, it's like a starving, anybody. And then all of a sudden you give them a T-bone and some mashed potatoes, and it's the best thing they ever had. And they want more tomorrow. And it was sort of that same philosophy for me with them bears. Once I get them on it, it definitely changes things.
Do you have any problem getting bait over the border?
Well, thanks for bringing that up, Dan.
Sorry.
We never have. We never have until last fall. We kind of got quizzed about the stuff that we had, and they had some pretty picky stipulations in there. And I guess what we've learned to do now is we don't bring the things we used to bring, which seemed to be okay. Now it is not. More or less what we've learned to do now is our camp food, things like that. We maybe got an extra bag of marshmallows or a box of M&Ms or something to that nature. But no, we've had to really throttle back on what we can. They seem to have a bigger issue with that now than they used to for some reason. We used to just flat out, they'd ask, we'd tell them, and they said, hey, if it's edible and you guys will eat it, good enough. See you later. Now, and that literally is the phrase they would use. If you'll eat it, you can have it. So we were always pretty picky about what we brought. Anymore, it seems like we didn't get quizzed at all this year about it. Last year, they did ask us, and it was the fall that we were able to hunt last year for the first time in a couple of years. And, they just seem to have a huge issue with it. So we actually left a few things at the border. One of the guys that went up with us this year, he brought eggs with, which I know was a no-no, but he didn't tell me he had them. And they actually made him walk them eggs back across the U.S. bridge and get rid of them, dispose of them on the U.S. side, which I guess I understand it. They're preventing the spread of disease, avian flu, stuff like that. So that's a whole nother chapter. But for the most part, yeah, we we've usually brought some stuff, excuse me, but pretty minimal. That's kind of the route now is maybe just a little different than it used to be.
So if you're going to tell us about that bear, you should start from the beginning when you first heard about it and how it got its history.
And I'll throw up some pictures here for everybody. I got them up here while Eric's talking.
So Zip Tie, I named him Zip Tie somewhere around 2010, give or take a year or so there. He actually got caught in a wolf snare. Local trapper was trapping wolves and hooked that bear, and the bear broke the snare. Well, then from that point forward, he just nobody ever seen a wolf break a wolf snare, but they kind of figured it was a bear. I assume they had some hair for evidence, whatever. And then all of a sudden there was this local bear was kind of being spotted here and there and seen on the baits and seen on camera and this and that. And as soon as I seen that, he was a pretty small bear, I guess, when I started hunting him. But I shouldn't say I started hunting him. When we first kind of really got on his radar, he was probably in that 350, 400 pound range at that point. And they were fall hunts. And then all of a sudden, he started becoming a legend because you could identify him so easy. It wasn't hard to see that it was him. I don't know if you'll see it in this video here quite clear, but some of the
see right there. Yep.
Yeah, you can see the white ring around his neck where the snare had been. So I put a friend of mine that I had taken up there probably 6 years ago, is my best guess. I put him on him because he was coming into this bait pretty regular in the daylight. There you can really see it. And he come in, kind of funny how it started. This Zip Tie bear, he'd only frequented that one bait one time, but there was another bear that was every bit as big as him that had a white chest. And I had told Tom, I said, Tom, this white-chested bear had been here 3-4 days in a row in the daylight. Don't shoot any bear other than that big white-chested bear. Just because he's a giant, he's probably going to show up. And I didn't want him to make a common rookie mistake and shoot the first bear he's seen, and it was a small one. Well, he come back that night. I said, did you see anything? He said, oh, yeah, I seen all kinds of stuff. And he said, a pretty good one that I didn't shoot. Well, he showed me the video, and who do you think it was? It was Zip Tie. And I said, Tom, why did you not shoot that bear? He said, because you told me not to. You told me just to shoot the white-chested one. And I said, well, you listened way too well, because Zip Tie is a you just had the first chance of anybody I know of to shoot him, and you let him walk away. So then it was game on for Zip Tie. Well, 2 days later, he did come back, and Tom put a pretty marginal shot in him. Actually, it was a kind of a poor shot, and I hate to bust his chops like that, but it was a poor shot. We never recovered him. Very confident that he was still alive. Kind of funny in this video, you see him sniffing that bear scat there. That was one of the tricks we played with him, is we actually took some scat from another bait 15, 20 miles away and brought a couple different bear piles in and put in here just to make him think somebody was in his turf. So that worked out well. Getting back to Zip Tie, he had been seen by several people on camera. This is a 2013 picture you have up right now. So
yeah,
9 years ago, I guess he wasn't an overly big bear, but you can see the snare there. So it kind of got down to a point where the first part of this hunt, we really utilized the cameras up there and don't waste our time in areas that are not producing the bears we're looking for.
Hey, can you bring that picture back up once?
The small when he was
the last one. Can I ask you something about that, Eric?
Please.
That bear looks a little taller than the barrel. So even though it's smaller in that picture in 2000, that's 13.
Yep.
It almost looks like he's just malnourished. Is that shortly after he got that snare on his neck?
I think that's within probably 3 years of that happening. And I completely agree with you, because for all these years, we've always talked about what that snare is doing to him. Is it going to choke him out? Is he having trouble eating? Does he still breed? All them things were question marks up until last Friday, when we actually got to put our fingers on him and learn a lot about what we kind of thought we knew but were unsure of. And I would agree with you 100%. He's got the height of a 250 to 300 pound bear. He doesn't have that girth. I mean, I look at the gap between his belly and the ground and how long his legs are, and it's kind of tough for me to tell with his neck and his head as far as how big that is. But he definitely looks to me like he's missing something. And it was one of the questions we always asked about him. Does he just take it real easy? Does he not get, overly aggressive fighting? Does he not do the things that a typical mature boar would do, just for the simple fact he's a little starved for oxygen? If you put a dog collar around your neck, you don't have to tighten it real tight before it really starts to impede your ability to eat, to breathe, things like that.
Maybe just for the first couple of years he was really shy about it too, and then he got used to it and learned how to deal with it. Maybe
I would imagine, it's just like anything. If you have any kind of impediment, you're going to kind of adapt to it and learn how to work around it. And I always felt like that snare was probably, because most snares are going to have a locking mechanism, it had probably really tightened up on him, it would be my guess, when he pulled out of it or broke it, which in turn, if that snare worked properly, the tighter he pulled, the tighter it would asphyxiate him. But apparently, somehow, by some miracle, it didn't. I mean, when I shot him, he wasn't malnourished. I promise you that. He was very short. That's one thing it was kind of surprising when I first laid eyes on him in person. I thought, geez, he's a tank, but not as long as what I would expect him to be. A bear that big typically is longer. And that could have very well been something that, his bone structure and everything didn't grow or didn't develop 100% because of lack of food, lack of oxygen. I don't know, but he definitely grew into himself. But we're talking 11 years after, or 9 years after that picture too.
And how old do you think he is in that picture?
I don't have an exact age on when he got snared. I kind of did the math and I put some numbers into my head what my best guess was. I don't have any facts to base this off of. He could have been a 2-year-old when he got snared. He could have been 8 years old when he got snared. I'm thinking it's likely to me this bear will come back around that 20-year-old mark this year. So in that picture there, I would guess he's probably somewhere in that, 9, 10.
Yeah.
Just my best guess. Some of it's fact-based, some of it's just a guess. But yeah, you can see he's not a young bear in that picture. I agree, he's missing something.
Right, it'll trick you. When I first looked at it, I thought, oh, it's a tiny bear, and then I'm looking at the barrel, and I'm like, whoa, wait a second here. He's fairly tall, so it's more, he doesn't have the meat on him.
I agree with you. I agree 100%. So I guess to kind of round out the history with him, Tom had wounded him. We chased him, never found him. Felt 100% like he was going to live is what I thought, because I went back, replayed the video in slow motion that he had, and it was pretty well obvious to me that he had kind of cut through. I thought he had gut shot him is what I thought at first, but he hit him so low that I think all he did was really cut skin, and the bear was laying down when he shot him. So the exit actually went through his left paw. Just by the way I was tracking him, I was finding the blood. Every time he would step, I would find a little dab of blood in the moss. And that kind of told me that was on his foot. After replaying the video and kind of watching it closer with that theory, that's sort of what told me, yeah, he stuck a hole in his foot and cut the bottom of his belly is all he did. So this right here, I don't know that you got any audio with this, but this is actually kind of the ending of the story. Is when I got him on camera early in the week, I had a picture of him, and as soon as I seen it, I thought, wow, that's zip tie for sure. I never got a picture of him the rest of the week. And it would have been probably around the 8th night, I suppose, 8th night of hunting, last night actually. This sow that's in front of him in this video, the one that's sitting at the barrel right now, she was coming in every day. Every single day I seen her, she'd come in. There was probably 2 other sows in that bait. Kind of got to a point where I felt I'm not seeing the bears I want. There was a real good 325, 350-pound boar that I could have shot a couple times. And don't get me wrong, that's an amazing bear. It just really wasn't what I was looking for. So my whole goal was to wait for one of these sows to come in heat, because I felt like if he was in the area, and there's a couple other bears up there too that are every bit as big as him that we know about. And I kind of thought, the first sow in heat here is going to have probably the biggest bear behind it. And that's exactly what, kind of transpired. She come in every day. I just bought my time. And then the last night she come in with him behind her. And, it was one of them situations where as crazy as it is, I have a bear in my shop that's pretty close to the same size as him. Maybe not quite as big, but just about as big. I killed him in the same exact spot, within 1 day. I think I killed him June 4th, and zip tie was June 3rd. Kind of that rut week is I target that for a reason up there, because this kind of guy is the one that moves around in the daylight when them sows come in heat. But it sort of turned into one of them things where it was almost like I started hyperventilating when I seen it was him. I wasn't overly excited when I seen the bear. I was overly excited when I seen the zip tie around his neck. I'm like, oh my God, that is him. And he come, and I had thankfully about 20 seconds to talk myself off the ledge before the shot was going to come. And he was in a bad position. He was perfectly broadside for a second. I started to draw. He quartered toward me, so I let down. It seemed like a day, but it was probably 5 seconds later. He turned broadside for me again, and I got the bow back, but his vitals were pretty close to covered by a tree. So I kind of had to wing an arrow right on the border of touching a tree. I shot him maybe 2 inches forward of what I would like to have, but it was kind of what I had. He crashed out of there like a bulldozer, like they all do, and 50, 75 yards later, I could hear the crash, and I could hear him wheezing, trying to get oxygen. And it was sort of, that was the time to sit there for a half an hour and try to calm down so I didn't fall out of the stand getting down. Pretty exciting. Very exciting. And the friends I had with me, you know, they made it even probably better yet, just because they were as excited about that bear as I was. Ken, the guy that runs the place up there, Ken was unbelievably excited, by far the most excited I've ever seen him. It was a legend. You know, that bear was kind of a legend up there, and he was very, very happy that one of his hunters, being me, got to harvest him. It's pretty amazing.
That is cool. You got any kill pics, Josh?
No, not yet. Eric doesn't have them yet, he said.
Oh, okay.
So I guess we got one, but it's those are better. Those videos and stuff are a little bit better.
Okay.
Everybody else took the pictures, and I haven't received them back from them yet. I got a hell of a picture in my mind.
Yeah. I think here I can.
One thing that caught me by surprise with that with the pics, Eric, was that the bear was so big at this time of the year.
You know, and it was a surprising thing. You're right. The blubber on him. Jesus, I got a couple videos of him scent posting on some of the trees around that bait marking his territory, which is a very common thing. The videos made him look like he was 650, 700 pounds. What you miss there is you don't get to really accurately judge the length of that bear. You can see how heavy he is in the belly and his girth, but length is a whole nother thing. We never really got to see that part of him until he was on the ground, and we noticed it immediately. But it kind of, it was a shock to me. He's that big, but you know what? I've just seen some of these bears, and I'm not kidding you. There's a few other ones that I feel are every bit as big as him, and probably weight-wise even bigger, just because he's short and he's built just like a human. A guy that's 5'4" and 250 pounds is a pretty husky guy. And then you take a guy that's 6'6" and 250 pounds, and he's kind of, I don't want to say lanky, but he's not real chubby. Bears are a lot.
He's got a skull on it, eh?
Oh man, he's got his mouth is crazy. I mean, you could set a 30-pack of Busch Light between his ears.
I always say that I like those bears that look like they got a butt crack on their forehead, and I saw that in some of the pictures.
Yeah, that's exactly how I describe it too. When they got a butt crack on their forehead, it's a good old bear. They don't grow that muscle until they get old.
Yeah.
But anyway, he scaled out. We were a little surprised in his weight, and just because he wasn't real long, he was 442, I think, is what he was. Which in the spring,
wrong with that in a spring bear.
No, and that's another thing you have to kind of portray too, is that bear would have been over 600 in the fall, because he'd have put on 150 pounds damn near throughout the summer.
Jeez.
But yeah, I've never once shot a big spring bear that I regretted and wished I'd have shot in the fall, but you always wonder what they would have been.
Do you go up there every spring and every fall?
You know, I only get one bear a year up there. So I have had years where I didn't tag out in the spring and then I go back in the fall.
They don't
But
allow you 2 tags, huh?
no, it's just one. You get one harvest tag and that's it. If you could, I'd certainly be going twice a year. It's one of them hunts. It's close to home. It's only 7 hours. Accommodations are way nicer than you're used to on a trip like that. It's nothing super fancy, but it's very, very, very nice. The hunt is easy. It's best suited. We went up there where there's just 1 or 2 of us. You have a whole lot more fun when there's a gang. You get 4, 5, 6 guys with you, and it turns into, like the old college party kind of, but yet in the afternoon, it's just all serious business to the hunt.
I got to get on one of these bear hunts.
I'm telling you, Josh, I told you. And all the other guys that were with us this year too, there were 6 of us in total, and we shot 5 dandy bears. I mean, they were 2 of the guys, 3 of the guys were first timers. So you kind of expect them going in there and shooting a toilet seat cover that weighs 100 pounds, because that's usually the first one they see. And these boys here, they were well coached in the beginning that they were probably going to do that. And boy, they proved me wrong, because they both, or all 3 of them, just shot slammer bears. And they let some young ones go. We shot some color. We had a chocolate bear, a really nice chocolate that my buddy Rhino shot, his first bear. Another guy, a new guy, he shot that bear was somewhere in the 425 range live weight. That was the first night. And that guy, we call him Yoder. Yoder, first time in a bear stand, and he lets just a gorgeous, gorgeous cinnamon bear sit there and eat for 2 hours. He come back with that video. I said, man, what is wrong with you? Oh, he said, I made the right choice. Look what I shot. I was like, oh my God. So the second guy, there was another guy that went back in later in that week and actually hunted that cinnamon bear and ended up killing it. So he made the right call. Yoder got a big one.
So what are you going to do with it mount wise?
I got to right size them. I have to.
Figure out what you're going to do. I mean, you got just about everything in the shop already.
Yeah, well, I don't mind more.
That zip tie on his neck.
Yeah, we're definitely going to life size zip tie. We have to. And I don't like to say I hold myself to that standard, but I kind of do. If I'm going to shoot a bear anymore, it's going to have to be something that's worthy of a life size mount. And I'm not saying every bear I'll ever shoot from here on out will be a life size, but I really feel like I held my standard by doing that, which kind of sucks, this less bears. This bear was number 46 for me, and my goal is to hit 50. If I can hit 50 and I kick off after that, so be it. I did it. If I keep looking for zip ties, I'm not going to get to 50. At least maybe. You never know. Keep going.
How tight was that snare around his neck whenever you got up to him?
So here's where we're just a little confused on that whole thing, because that was probably the most exciting part to me, is to get up to him and grab that snare and see if we always argued, is it grown into the hide? Is it underneath the skin now? Has it dissolved completely? What is the real story on him? And the truth in the matter is the zip tie is gone. The snare is gone. Whether that rusted off this year, I think he lost it within the last year, because we used to be able to see the tail end of it hanging off. I don't know if it rusted off of him. If he still was fighting. This bear was he was still an active participant in the Wild West. He had notched out ears. He still got fresh scars. I mean, he was still trying to be king of the forest. And I don't know if another bear ripped it off of him. That's the logical thing to me. Potentially rusted off of him, being there that long, 12, 13, 14.
Maybe he just broke it working at it for all those years, just bending it back and forth.
Yep, that's a potential thing too. There's that'll be the legend of zip tie, the part we never know. But it wasn't there. We fully expected when we skinned him to find it underneath the skin. Wasn't there. So that's one thing zip tie took to the grave. We'll never know.
What year was it? You may have said it earlier. I missed it. What year was it that Tom shot him?
I'm going to say probably about 5-6 years ago.
Okay.
It's fairly accurate. I'd have to look back in my photos to know for sure, but 5-6 years is pretty close. And there's been several people that have seen him since then. There's a there's a bear preserve that's probably 10 miles, 12 miles from where I ended up shooting him. And Tom actually had shot him within a couple miles of that preserve, and that's where he got trapped, is near that preserve. I'm thinking that was kind of his home area. That's where he was native to, is that bear preserve. And since I killed him, which was just last Friday, so just a few days back, I guess almost a week now, I've had lots of people that have hunted there text me pictures and call me and said, yeah, we seen him when we were at that preserve, because the guy's actually got some tame bears that he's hand fed since the day one. We call it the donut factory. The guy is probably going to get somebody killed eventually, because these are 100% wild bears, and some of them have just grown up with him feeding them every day. And he's actually got the public comes in once in a while, and they'll literally hand feed some of these bears, and something's going to go bad one day. The locals do not like him because of that. These bears some of them have no fear. So hopefully that don't happen, but it very well could.
Yeah. You always hear stories about those things going south.
Yeah, usually, eventually it does.
Well, congrats on the bear.
Thank you, guys.
That's a really, really cool hunt. I really enjoyed that. So I'm bear hunting this fall, and I was thinking about running up by you this weekend, maybe if you're around, getting some bait. What do you suggest for this time of the year, and why?
So this time of year is more about volume. Bears typically this time of year aren't super picky about what they're eating. Nutritional requirements aren't real strict. Common things nowadays is going to be your cookies, and we've got like a peanut butter wafer granola that's just dynamite stuff. That's probably one of the better things I've ever had. Some of the peanut butter M&Ms, I really like. The bears love them. They just like vacuum cleaners with them things. There's a caramel sauce that we have. I think in the week's time, I'm estimating 40, 50 different bears that we've seen come in. We would always take a packet of that caramel and squirt it on the barrel, or make a pile of it on the ground, in a crotch of a tree or something where they had to kind of face away from you and look away where a guy could draw back. If we've seen 60 bears last week, 60 out of 60 went in and licked that caramel till it's gone. I mean, they're just addicted to the stuff. Once they get on it, it is definitely something they're going to hit first every single time. I mean, I really like anything of any kind of volume, and you put that topper on it. And this year, that's kind of what's going to hold them. Kind of got a good idea where you're going to be hunting, Dan. And I think that you're going to probably want to mix in a small portion. I like to run like a 80-20 rule, 80% filler and 20% nutritional this time of year. But then when I start getting to mid to late August, I start flipping that, and I flip that to 20% filler, 80% nutritional. The biggest reason that we've went that route is these bears have what I call garbage mode to fat mode. And all summer long, they're primarily in garbage mode, where they eat whatever they can that tastes good, fills the belly. But then when they start hitting that late August, that biological switch goes off. And that switch says nothing more than it's time for you to start eating things that are nutritionally sound in order to put on fat reserve for hibernation, because if you don't, you're going to die. Peanuts, trail mixes, things like that are typically what we'll blend, I guess you'd say, to kind of hit that 20-80 rule or 80-20 rule right now. And then we just flip that ration. 80% filler, 20% nutritional now. End of August, we'll go 80% nutritional, 20% filler. And the bears are going to do it. They're going to go that way no matter what. It's up to you if you follow it or not. You're not going to change it. If you go against that grain, I think your success is going to drop dramatically. One thing I want to point out, I kind of skipped over when I was telling the story about zip tie. This is a fallacy, in my opinion, 100% in my opinion, not just a question mark, but 100% fallacy. I hear people all the time say, I'm going to dump that bait because I got a sow and cubs in there. I've got some videos, and probably 4 to 6 times I've seen the sow come in on this bait where I killed zip tie that had little butterball cubs. And when I say small, you could put 4 or 5 of them in a 5-gallon pail. That's how small they are right now up there. And everybody says when you have a sow and cubs on a bait, you're not going to kill a decent bear in there because she's going to drive them all off. Well, I'm going to tell you right now.
Chase small bears away, but not big ones.
I'm going to tell you, this zip tie was number 9 9 booners, all 9 had a sow and cubs on it. All 9, 9 for 9. And you know what? That's 90%. That passes any test I've ever took in my life.
A minus.
Hey,
No.
C's were cool with me.
Yeah, me too, Eric.
Yeah, it's funny you say that about the bait with the protein and stuff, because I've noticed that watching the cameras and watching the bears when I hunt, if I bait all summer or to start a baiting in whatever particular state I'm in, I've noticed that they just eat everything that you put out early.
Yep.
And there's the time right before bear season when they'll come in and they'll just take the prime things. I mean, eventually they'll eat everything, but you watch them come in and just start getting picky.
Absolutely. And that's different regions got different food sources that they kind of gravitate to. We'll use my area for an example here. We're just loaded with acorns. I mean, we've got probably as many oak trees as anything else here. So they have a plethora of acorns, and the acorns are bitter tasting, but they're super, super high in nutritional value. I get into northern Minnesota, places like that. It's the same story with a different name. Hazelnuts, they'll start really, really diving into those come bear season in the fall. Any place that they have a higher nutritional value, taste doesn't matter to them at all anymore. And we see that just the same, even during the summer. If we've got anywhere, let's just say 8 bears coming into a bait, I can feed, let's just say 5 different ingredients in my bait. And every bear is sometimes different, where one comes in and every time, if you identify him, you can see that he goes for, let's just say marshmallows, just as an example. He always vacuums up the marshmallows first, and then he'll switch to circus peanuts or whatever it is that his second favorite. And people kind of fail to realize these things ain't a lot different than people. So if I take you to Old Country Buffet and say, hey, Dan or Josh, dinner's on me. Go get all you want. It's a buffet. Eat all you want. It's free. What are you going to grab? Are you going to grab 3 pounds of mashed potatoes?
Josh is eating quiche.
Yeah, or are you going to go grab the steak and the lobster and the crab legs, until you puke? And it's no different with that bear. They're just a lot like people. They really are. You think about what you would do, and that's probably what they're going to do. We can just manipulate them a little bit to do things and little tricks like that bear scat. That doesn't necessarily work, and it does in the whitetail world too. I mean, you can assert dominance with whitetails and trick a buck that's got a rub line or a scrape line into thinking there's another mature or dominant animal in there, and you can maybe try to get him to do something he normally wouldn't do. But I think with a bear, I think it's a lot easier.
Yep. So how often do you think a guy should bait from like right now to season? You think my plan was once a week till mid-August, and then start bumping it up to a couple times, 3 times a week? I
think the region will have everything to do with that answer. I know that in my particular area, and it's probably no different where you're headed. I kind of know that area a little bit too, and that's one of them areas that's it's a high traffic area. There's a lot of hunters around there. Tags aren't super hard to come by. The volumes of hunters are big, and I am really, really, really a strong proponent on baiting a little bit early. Like right now, I want my baits cranking. And some people look at that and say, oh, yeah, he wants you to bait early because he wants to sell you more bait. That's zero to do with my answer. The reason I want to be baiting now is because anybody that's baited early and has had a super stud boar on their bait, a lot of them have seen them disappear this time of year. And what they're doing is they're not leaving because you did something wrong. If you're doing everything correctly, they're leaving because they got a 50, 60 mile range that they're going to go out looking for sows. Now, what you got to remember is that's not the bear I'm concerned about, because if I've treated him well for the last 3, 4, 5 weeks on my baits, he knows there's a bunch of food here. He knows it's good. He knows there's sows. He knows this. He knows that. He might go on a walkabout and he might be gone for 2 to 4 weeks. But I'm not concerned about him. I'm concerned about the boar that's from 50 miles away, that's coming through my direction, hits my bait, finds 2, 3 sows on it, and he says, wow, this is amazing. And I sometimes use the analogy, if you're from, I ain't going to use no names, but let's just say the inner city, and you're kind of accustomed to hearing gunshots and people getting shot on the sidewalk and things like that. And then you come to small town Ettrick, USA. You get here and you're like, wow, the worst thing I got to worry about here is hitting a deer with my truck. Things are awesome. The grass is green, the food is good, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes you can get them bears to move and take up a new home range because things are better where they just visited versus where they came from. I think that's the same with people. Why did people from the city want to move to the country? Escape the chaos, live a better life. It's the same with that bear. So my goal baiting early is to hopefully catch 1 or 2 super stud boars that are from a distant area that came through, checked things out, found it, loved it, and thought, hey, this is a better place to live than where I was. I'm now going to live here. Now he's a target for me again. And we our biggest bear ever, that's exactly what we did with him. We caught him during the rut one year. He come in, he loved it here, he stayed here. He was here every year since until he died here.
So the one thing I've noticed with my traveling in baiting is I'll get bears will come in, say are a target bear, find your bait, and because they got a camera running on it 24/7, always, all baits. So they'll find it and he'll stick around till the bait's gone, and then come in the next day and look. And a day or two might go by and he comes back again, and then if I don't get bait out there, I lose him.
100%.
And then maybe a week or two later, he shows up again, and the same routine. So I guess what I'm leaning at is if I'm not looking for anything unless it's big either, So I'm kind of leaning at running these baits when something big shows up on them, then I start cranking up the bait. Would you say that's a good tactic?
Hey, before you answer that, I'm gonna run the restroom real quick while you guys are chit chatting about. I have no input on any of this stuff. I'll be right back.
And you just kind of alluded to one of my theories, I guess you'd say. Going right back to what I said a little bit ago about bears being like people. If you use the analogy, let's just say a restaurant that's 3 miles from your house, close, easy. If that restaurant, you go in there and you try it out, that's that bear coming for the first time. You go in and trying that restaurant for the first time. And you go in there and you find just amazing food, decent service, all right pricing. You're pretty apt to go back to that place the next time you go out for dinner. Versus the alternative will be the second part of your statement. If you go there, you try that food, it's all right. You go back the second time to try it again, but they're closed at 5 o'clock at night on Friday. You're going, well, maybe something catastrophic happened, and wait staff didn't show up or something happened within the family. So you maybe give them a third chance and you go back next time and you try it again, but they're closed again. That closed again is equating to you not feeding them again. There's no reward for their effort. At some point, you're only going to strike out so many times at that restaurant, AKA that bait. You're only going to do that so many times before you say, I need to go try a different restaurant. And as soon as that happens and that bear goes to the other restaurant, being the guy that's baiting a mile or 2 miles up the road, whatever it happens to be, and he's really taking care of his bait well, he's feeding them, and cell cams, I can't push enough how big of a tool a cellular camera is for me on a bait. It saves me a ton of money. It pays for itself every year because I don't have to go waste my time going in there if that bait isn't hit. I don't have to put a bunch of human scent in for a bear that's not accustomed to my scent yet. That's a tender, that's a real tender time is when that bait first starts getting going, because that bear that's not habituated to your smell, when he comes in for the first time and he smells human scent, he also smells that bait, that attractant, all the things you use to lure him in. So there's a decision for him, fight or flight. Do I stay here? Do I come in? Do I go into that grub pile and see what's there, even though I smell there's a human intrusion? That's kind of the point where that cell cam, I don't have to go check that bait 6, 8, 10 times without it being hit, stinking the place up before I give that bear a reward for his effort. And as humans, we work for money. We go to work all the time and we expect to get paid for it. If we go to work for a week and we don't get paid, there's a small chance you'll go back to work next week. But if you don't get paid again, you're looking for a job. It's the same with that bear. When he exerts that energy to come to that bait, he wants a reward for his effort. We work for money. He works for food. So not having food in there, I think, is a detriment. And I see baits that could be dynamite that people are lazy, maybe per se. They don't put the effort into it that it should have. I see them people every day, and I also see the guys that work their butts off. The guys that work their butts off are typically the ones sending me pictures.
So if I was going to bait, once or twice a week during the summer here until it picked up, my thought is I'd like to have something that they really like, but maybe not fully because I've got that 10-gallon limit.
Yeah.
But something that might last a little while. Is there something I could do like that? I think a bear's just going to eat 10 gallons no matter what you put there, right?
Yes and no. Different sized bears are going to consume different volumes of food. If I see these super slammer bears, these 500-600 pound bears on a bait, it's not a real uncommon thing to watch them eat a 5-gallon pail in a sitting. Now, if we take that average 100-pound bear, 150-pound bear, I'd say more like that 2 gallons is probably it. So the numbers of bears you have on a bait will kind of dictate how long your bait will be around, I guess, per se. And I hear that stuff all the time too. All I'm doing is feeding 100-pound bears. Well, I'll take every 100-pound bear on a bait I can get because that is competition that makes a big guy. There's only two things that are going to make a 500-pound bear walk out in the daylight. One is competition, and the other is the rut. And we don't get to hunt the rut here. So I get to use that tactic in Canada, obviously, but I don't get to use it here. It's a straight a fall hunt. That's all we get. So as far as a recommendation on a food, dense bait definitely fills them up quicker. There's no two ways about it. They can't eat as much of it. And it's no different than me and you. Grab a box of popcorn and you can eat the whole damn pail and not be full. Grab 3-pound roast and try eating that.
Mm-hmm.
Dan, you might be able to do that, but
not anymore.
You're an eater.
How about cookies? Heavy on the cookies?
I like cookies in the summer because they're just good filler. There ain't too many bears in the world that aren't going to eat cookies. I feel like later on they become my filler bait, certainly not my nutritional end of it.
Mm-hmm.
Cookies, yeah. I mean, I do a lot of cookies. They're light. They're reasonably priced. There's a lot about them I do like. I just think towards season they're not the answer to me at all.
How about bait placement? I noticed that we differ there. Most of the stuff that me and you talk about, I agree with you 100% on everything you're saying, and kind of vice versa. But I've never really hunted bears in hills. I've always gravitated to swamps, and I've always set up like with deer, where I look for a spot where that bear can hide down into a low swamp on the end of a point.
Mm-hmm.
And I want that bear to be able to bed close. And I try to look for a crosswind because I think they're going to circle if they get the wind directly away from the bait. You know what I'm saying? But I want them to lay there, watch the bait. And I've seen this on cameras. When the small bears come in, they'll protect the bait. They'll come in and chase them off. And that's what I try to maintain. But, I thought I really had a good system for that. And then when I went up by you, I noticed you and your neighbors, maybe not as much as you because I didn't look at any setups that you had for bears. But your neighbor for sure had that set up on the top of the hill. And I couldn't believe he shot a big boar come up out of the bottoms up that hill.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm going a little overboard with my setups. I don't know.
No, I mean, I completely see why you do what you do. And here's where I'm going to give you my take on this, because this was a hunt I've never, ever in my life felt so uncomfortable in a stand as I did on this trip. And the reason being is the way the wind was swirling in there. And I'm telling you, it came from every single direction, 10 different times every night I hunted. And it got to a point where I had to trust what I knew, not what I seen. The pollen was falling absolutely insane. It looked like a snowstorm up there most of the week. It was all pollen. So you were able to watch. It was like having 5 million milkweeds in the air at all times, all day long. And the way that wind swirled in there, I was still seeing solid numbers of bears coming in. And I think it's a food over fear thing. I think it kind of comes down to a point where you said it. You'll probably never in your lifetime see a mature bear that doesn't circle you, that doesn't try to get the wind on you. And in the hill country, we've seen very few situations, and I look for it, where I can put some sort of a natural barrier on that downwind side where he's got to expose himself in a wide open field or something like that, which they don't like to do. That's one of the only ways I've been able to curb the wind on a bear. This hunt proved to me, I've kind of always said it, forget your scent control. Don't even think about it because it's pointless. I could drop you in a vat of iodine and helicopter you into your tree stand, and you stink like a rotting carcass to a black bear. I don't think you can hide from them. So you know what I've kind of learned to do? Not try. I don't even put one iota of scent control into bears. I do not even do it because they're going to get you. They're going to smell you no matter what, unless you get that perfect storm. I mean, I seen 15, 20 bears this week that all had my wind, every single one of them, because I watched it blow right to them in the bait. I watched it go, straight up from the pressures pushing the milkweed or the pollen, I guess, straight down to them, from it blowing over the top of them from the east, the west, the north, the south. And just, I got to a point where this just kind of proved my theory. This was the second booner I've shot out of that stand. Exact same situation on a sow, scent posting, coming in downwind to me. I think it just comes to a point where they've smelled humans, seen humans, and they just ignore it. I really think that's the truth. It's crazy to say it out loud because it goes against everything as scent control that we've talked about in the history of our deer hunting and bear hunting and everything else. Me personally, my fear with your setup, Dan, is that you'd walk in bumping them bears because they may bed in an area commonly. They're probably not going to be laying in the same bed every time. So when you think you're getting in tight to them, sometimes I think maybe you're bumping them. And to me, that's
I think you'd have to see my setups to know what I'm talking about, because I always set up on the edge of hardwoods, in the edge of swamp. So I've got a clear path to the edge of the swamp. The bait's in a place that they're not laying out in the open.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? But it's adjacent to where they would lay. So I'm figuring I'm putting myself within 100 yards of where they would bed or where I have known them to bed. It actually works pretty good. But my curiosity was more on the hill country. But I think you pretty much answered my question. Get down in the bottoms, you can't control the wind. You can control it at the top.
Yeah, you can. And that setup, I know exactly the one you're talking about with the neighbor's setup. And I think that he probably got into that position where that wide open field was more than likely on the downward side of the wind direction. And I'm thinking that bear just didn't want to come out into that field, so he got lazy and poked his head out of the timber, and the bait's 5 yards out of the timber, which wouldn't have been my position where I would have put it, but I can see why it worked also.
I've seen where bears will ignore your scent. I've seen it where it blows right to them and they come in anyway. I've seen that several times, so I know what you're talking about. But I've also had them come in, catch my wind, and leave. So I try to play the wind.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because I try to use an obstacle or an open area, but I have a very hard time getting bears in that Minnesota area or even in some of the swampy areas that I hunt to come into any kind of opening, even a small opening in the woods.
Yep. I don't like my baits in the clearing. I've always said the darker it is in your bait site, the more comfortable they feel. Clear cuts. We've seen some clear cuts where it's just 3 to 5 year regrowth and a clear cut, and it's so thick you can't even walk through it. You think there's nothing that even lives in here. Well, that's where them bears are at. The gnarlier the better, but they always are going to bed. Shouldn't say always, but I think predominantly they're going to bed in them low-lying swampy areas because the temperature difference. I think the hill you're speaking of, you know the setup better than me, but think about that hill where you sit versus down in the bottom in that swamp. There's probably a 10-degree difference there.
Yeah.
Well, what's bear season? Typically it's 90+ degrees. They wear a black winter jacket all day. Being in the sun sucks, period. Much less 10 degrees warmer. They take advantage of that. And I think that's kind of my thinking too, is they like the small swampy areas, low-lying.
You got any questions coming in, Josh?
Yeah, I got a few. If you guys are
anybody that wants to call in and talk to,
if anybody wants to call in here, I'll post the link again. It'll be at the bottom of the chat. I posted it earlier also, so you could use either one. Just have to copy it into your web browser, and it'll let you in. You have to figure it out from there. But I'll just pop some questions up for you guys. So Stan P asked, you ever hunt spot and stalk bear? Either one of you? Probably out west.
I have never done that.
I have not either.
I have. I didn't get one.
I've done it accidentally.
Yeah. I was elk hunting out in Colorado, and you you get a bear tag for $100. So we were kind of dual purpose. If we saw a bear, we were bear hunting, but other than that, we were elk hunting. So I can't really say I've had a tag in my pocket, I guess, in the woods. Someone, I can't find it in here, but someone did ask about dogs. If you got either one of you ever hunted with dogs?
I did. My first bear was with hounds. I enjoyed it a lot, but I really prefer the chess game of hunting them over bait. So I've never, I did it once, and I never did it again. I really prefer bow hunting them, and where it's the up close. I think they would be really easy to kill with a rifle. Getting them to come to them baits and not wind you, not circle you, not catch you, not bust you or figure you out is a tough thing. Like Eric said, every now and then they just come waltzing right in, and you think, well, what the heck? But usually a bear that gets to be 20 years old is a pretty smart animal. If you sat back 200 yards with a rifle and had a clear shot to a bait in an otherwise dense cover, that just doesn't do it for me. I like that up close thing. So I like the bow hunting. I like the chess game, but I'm not into the hounds. I enjoyed the hunt immensely, but it was really more about running the hounds and watching how they acted and watching how the bear acted when it was chased for me. How about you, Eric?
I've ran bears a lot with dogs. Not so much during the kill season. I was more into the training season. A, it was timing for me. B, I see people that get along and people I like and see them get along with each other well during the training seasons. But as soon as kill season came around, now they're enemies, and it just everything got different. So I never enjoyed the kill season, I guess you'd say. I love running bears with dogs, though. I shot one here in Wisconsin about 2-3 years ago with the dog hunt, and I did it with my bow, which you kind of alluded to it not being as much of a chess match. It's a chess match between the dogs and the bear, not so much the hunter and the bear anymore. You still got to do your part, but I mean, I've run dogs most of my life, and I thoroughly enjoy it, and I honestly really hope to do it quite a bit in the future. But going back to the spot and stalk thing a little bit, exact same as you, Josh. I was elk hunting in Idaho, and my elk hunt turned into a bear hunt really quick because we had a 500-pound chocolate hitting my wife's elk carcass.
Nice.
So that turned into a bear hunt really quick. And that was a spot where I was hunting with my recurve, and I was pretty limited on my distance, and the carcass was sort of in a bad spot, and I made do the best as I could. And that bear, he knew I was there every time I was there. And as soon as I was gone, he was back. And, that typical chess match where you don't come out on top all the time or even often on a bear like him. So my spot and stalk, though, is very, very limited. You could say that was still a bait hunt is really what it was.
Yeah, we went elk hunting the year before that and didn't buy bear tags, and we saw like 3 different bears.
Yeah.
And then the year we bought a tag, we never saw a bear. But it was also super dry up there. There wasn't. I mean, it was a whole different area.
Anyway, I'd run hounds for cougar mountain lion. That's on my bucket list. I'd like to do that once.
That's awesome.
Get a good time with hounds.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
My family. Oh
yeah. My family's really into hound hunting, so I think I could go do something like that with my dad, and he'd be all over that. He'd like that, and I would too. So, all right, Dan, this one's probably just going to be you talking, but Stan wants to know the history of the hunting beast and how did it start. We'll probably do a whole podcast on that sometime.
Yeah, he probably could. I got pretty well known through my deer hunting stuff, and then at some point I started a business called Blood Brothers Outdoors, and there was a breakup with the partners, and then I started hunting beast on my own with my wife and my son, which is really just me hunting. But I include Josh and everybody else. And it was more about when I started this out, nobody really shared secrets, and it was kind of taboo. You didn't tell people how to hunt or anything. And people would get mad that you gave secrets. And I just always thought that if you help young people learn how to hunt and you help novices that are beginning, that everybody'd be better off. I mean, it's more like a team sport to me. You hunt on your own, you go out there, you do your thing on your own. But if you help people get into the sport, it protects the sport. So I always did this to give back to the community that did a lot for me, because when I was young, I mean, I was a wild and crazy kid, grew up in the 80s. All my friends were potheads and drunks and stuff, and most of them are dead or in jail. What saved me was the hunting, the love of the outdoors. And I think that could save a lot of kids today in today's society. I think there's nothing healthy about sitting in a house playing video games or growing up in a city with no recourse of getting into the wilderness. The wilderness is where we belong. It's where we came from. And you have to have some time there. And I just like to see more people get into that. And that's why I started the Hunting Beast.
There you go. Everybody, there's the story of the Hunting Beast. How many years has it been going on now, Dan? What year did you start it?
The Hunting Beast itself, I think, is from, around 2010.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think around...
that sounds about right.
Early 2000s is when I started Blood Brothers.
All right. What's the arrow setup for bear? You do anything different for bear or anything?
Yeah, I did it different this year. I'm doing it different again next year.
Yeah.
Yeah. I played with some stuff this year different than what I've done in the past. So I like to say a whitetail arrow is a good bear arrow, most always. To me, whitetail is more of a dense animal than a black bear. This being this bear I just shot, he would have been number 44 that I shot with a bow. No, 44. 44 with a bow. Last year was the first time of all the bears I've ever shot, the first time I didn't pass through the bear completely. And the arrow went out the other side. It just hung in him. I watched 2 or 3 guys last week shooting a setup that I looked over. I looked at their total grain weight and everything they were shooting out of their bow. And I kind of was shocked to see 3 arrows that didn't pass through this week. After seeing that, I've been shooting a 2.1 inch. I'm not going to get into names and brands and all that stuff, but this is an arrow that I was shooting 505 grains up until this year, and I built some new shafts, heavier front of center. Went down to 450 grains because I really felt like I was leaving things on the table as far as shooting distance. Heavier arrows obviously are dropping faster, but they carry kinetic energy to a point where they start losing that kinetic energy or momentum. So I went down to 450 grains this year. I built them shafts. This was the first animal I've hunted with them. I seen them other guys not pass through their bears, so I grabbed an 1.5 cut. I got 2 at the exact same broadhead. One's an 1.5 cut. The other one's a 2.1 inch. Typically, I've shot the 2.1 because I want a big hole. I need to get some of that blood out of that bear onto the ground for tracking. I switched to that 1.5 a day or 2 before I shot zip tie. And I did that because I was spooked by what I was seeing by these other guys. And I thought, if that big bastard does come in, it's going to take a lot of arrow to drive through him. And when I shot him, I literally just poked the chisel tip out the other side. So I didn't blow through him. I'm going to tell you right now, right here is another dozen shafts. And I'm building 6 of these. They're going to be about 650 grains. And here's why. I'm shooting 20 yards and less. I'm never shooting distance with a bear. They're always close. I shot zip tie at 12 yards. That's a pretty standard shot on a bait. 15 being kind of the norm. I like 18 if I could pick a number. I am going to build some super heavy arrows just because I'm not looking at shooting 30, 40, 50, 60 yards with this animal. I would have answered this question differently 2 weeks ago. After just seeing 4 of them this last week that we did not pass through, things are different for me. I can make that argument, we go with a cut-on contact broadhead or a fixed blade. And yes, there's a lot of truth in that. That's going to blow through pretty much every single black bear you ever shoot. Even with a light arrow, 350 grain arrow is probably going to blow through. Here's the problem. If you don't have a decent wound channel and a giant cut, these things can be super, super hard to track. I've seen fatal hits, great lung shots, where you got a hard time finding that animal because they're going to run 40, 45 miles an hour, and they bust through that brush and get 100 yards in a matter of 2-3 seconds. It don't sound like a lot unless you've been in that kind of territory where 100 yards is 10 miles as far as tracking. So a big cut and a good heavy arrow or a decent, I'd say 500 grains and better, is sort of where I'm going to build my setup from here on out just for black bears.
For me, I always use my deer arrows, the same ones I use for deer hunting, and I've never had a problem. I've had them where they don't go completely through, but usually because it's hit something on the other side and stops. Like it hits the dirt on the other side and hangs up, but I blow through both sides. I have experienced bad blood trails from, I won't use the expandables, but from my broadheads, I have had poor blood trails or not very much at all. But it seems to me like a bear goes down way faster than a deer, and I've never lost one because of that. I mean, I find them pretty easy. I had the worst one, I think, got 100 yards, maybe a little more than that, and really, really dense cover with very sparse blood. Took me 45 minutes or something. But the only bear I didn't recover, I didn't deserve because I shot it in the shoulder. As long as you stay back from that shoulder. I mean, they got such a dense shoulder, you don't want to hit that for sure. I mean, you might get through a whitetail, but getting through a shoulder of a mature boar, I don't think it's happening. And the good thing is with a bear, you can hit them a little further back. You don't have to glue to the shoulder as much as with a deer, wouldn't you say, Eric?
I agree 100%. I usually, and we're talking about 9 inches here, and I usually like to say from the crease of the shoulder, I like to be right around 9 inches back because that's going to get me into the lungs, and I've still got 8-10 inches of liver behind that, whatever that happens to be. I've got a really big area to miss forward and back if I shoot that spot. And you're right. I think they die easier than a whitetail most of the time.
Yeah.
With a good
what's funny is I don't see that with a gun, and I don't know why. But
I think it's annoying.
Down much faster.
I agree. I think it's the noise that scares them. It's that adrenaline, that instant rush of adrenaline when they hear that gunshot. Yeah, versus an arrow, it's another bee sting.
Sometimes it amazes me how fast they go down. I mean, a lot of times it's right in eyesight.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe because they're so big that it takes so much force to move that they use up all that oxygen so fast. That's why they go down faster. Maybe, I don't know.
Could be.
I think the main problem people have with bears is the lack of patience. And I think if you haven't shot a lot of bears, it's easy to get excited when a bear comes in and take a shot too early or on a wrong angle or something. Or if they're pushing it with a bear that's coming in late, they can just look like a black blob, and you can be looking at shoulder and think you're looking behind shoulder or something. Having proper light and being patient, I think, is important.
I just had that conversation with one of the new bear hunters last week. I had a really good boar, and he was maybe a boar I would even have shot if I'd have had more daylight, but I could see him plain as day at 12 yards. I could see the silhouette of his body, no question. He was a good one. And could I have made the shot? Yes, I'm fully comfortable I could have. But the problem is, and I've done this, where you can't tell if they're quartered toward you. Are they quartered away a little bit? Are they perfectly broadside? Because you're right, they're just a black silhouette against the black or darker late at night shot. And I'm telling you, it's just not worth it. You're going to regret it most of the time if you do it. So yeah, you're 100% right. Wait for that perfectly broadside shot. Chances are he's probably not going anywhere. He's probably going to give that shot to you.
That was all the questions we had in the Q&A. Eric, what do you got going on this year? Are you going on any hunts or anything this fall?
Yeah, so we just finished up Ontario, obviously. Me and the wife we drew Montana elk. So we're going to head to Montana for a week. And then I've got a Colorado mule deer, eastern Colorado mule deer. That'll be first part of November. So right now, those are kind of the only two that are scheduled, but I hope to find something to fill in.
Yeah. That'd be good. I got to get out mule deer hunting again. It's on my bucket list to get a mule deer here pretty soon. So
I should have a late season muzzleloader tag for Iowa too. I usually draw that.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll find out probably in the next week or so. I should get a Iowa archery tag, but
Yeah, me too.
yep. I think I talked to some residents. They said they usually come out like the 18th or 19th ish area.
You both
I
got
hope
me
to do at
jealous.
least.
Got
Do
me
what?
jealous. I'm jealous on that one.
Yeah. Well,
You know, it's 5 years of applying. I mean, if a guy gun hunts, he can go every other year.
Right. Every year where I'm at, it's I've never not drawn. But that's the hard part about having a lease down there is, yeah, it's hard to sit there and have a lease for 5 years and not.
Yeah, but you know what? You probably wouldn't even be able to afford that lease if you could get a tag every year.
No, and I 100% love the system.
Good.
I love their system.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Yep. I'm excited. Hopefully we get the tags and get out there and experience Iowa. I'll probably hunt either South Dakota and Kentucky too, and then Ohio. I went turkey hunting in Ohio, so I got most of the expense paid for over there.
I'm just worried about the guy on Eric's shirt blowing up our economy before hunting season, making it hard to afford this stuff.
The gas is going to be more expensive than the tags and everything else.
Yeah, it's really
getting there.
I'm going to say it, and I don't want to turn this political at all, but I think I maybe already did. So,
hate.
I've had some guys already tell me, guys I've hunted with for a bunch of years, not guys that I would say are poor by any means, but they're already backing off on some of the hunts that we've done many, many, many times because they're holding their cards close to the vest right now with the purse string. They're scared of what's coming. I'm seeing the companies that I work with, so they're calling, talking about forecasting. What do I think is going to happen here in the next 6 months? My answer wasn't real bright. I don't see good things coming, and unfortunately, they agree with me. And it sounds like you guys probably do too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not fun.
I hope we can push past it.
We had another question come in while we were BSing here. You're mentioning late season muzzleloader in Iowa. Any pointers on late season muzzleloader hunts in Iowa? See, here you go. Sent in for Zone 5, he says. This is my buddy Brad. Global, we call him.
Yeah. My experience, so I'm in Zone 9. I'm up in the northeast corner. It's a lot easier for me to get a tag. And like I said, I've never not drawn. Nobody in our group, I guess you'd say, has never not drawn the shotgun or the muzzleloader hunt. The archery tag, yeah, that one's going to take me 3 to 4 years to get. The pointers, late season muzzleloader hunting in Iowa, food. It's 100% my game. I have very, very limited food on my property. I also have some straight up killers that hunt before me on my property. So if I've got 4 or 5 target bucks, it seems them guys got them dead before I get there. So that sucks, but we always have, a couple that are left. And unfortunately on our farm, it's pretty tough just because a lot of it's CRP land. We find that the bedding is kind of what we have to focus on. Some of the neighbors have great food sources. We have better bedding. So I need to kind of target in between that. And it all comes back down to scouting. Learn your farm, learn where them deer are at. We keep about a 200-acre sanctuary. If we see 10 deer, 9 of them are coming out of there. That's really what keeps me in that game, is having that bedding area, because I don't have the food source. The neighbor does, but I house the deer. He feeds them. I would love to have both. I just can't on that farm. It's not up to me. So, in the end, they're still a deer. They still have a lot of the same habitual traits that every deer in Wisconsin, Indiana, no matter where, they kind of play the same game. And they've been chased. I mean, Iowa's a lack of pressure compared to here, but some of them deer still get chased, early archery season, which is probably a month before. I think it opens October 1st. October 1st all the way to the first part of December. Them deer are getting pounded a lot. Some of them deer are getting pounded during the shotgun season, the first shotgun, second shotgun, and then muzzleloader comes up after that. So lack of pressure, food, and bedding. Really, that's 3 things. If you can use any of them, I think that's the key.
That's December, right?
That hunt, yeah, I think it's the end. It's right over Christmas time, so somewhere right around then. Yeah, it starts.
Yeah, I would say just like Eric said, food, but I would say keep moving. Don't sit on the same spot if nothing's happening, because they congregate around food or whatever, so they'll all be in one area, and it's like you got to find the deer. You can't just sit and wait for them like rut, in my opinion, at that time frame. So, I mean, if you can go on, you got to remember, Eric, most of these guys are public land hunters. So.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that's a different scenario.
So keep moving.
Sure. Yep. Iowa's really good for, the state actually leaves a lot of food on their public land. They'll plant soybeans and corn and everything else just for the deer. And that's just one of the things I love about Iowa compared to here, is they seem to really want to put back. You know, they get exorbitant money for their tags and everything else, but to me, it's worth it. It's well worth it.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited.
Yeah, you should be.
All right, Eric, we'll let you get off here because we've been on here with over an hour and 20 minutes. So
appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, man,
it's been fun. I really like the bear talk. I don't think it goes over as well with our listeners, but I love it.
Something different,
right?
Yep, for sure. Yeah, I appreciate it. And congrats on the bear. Good luck. I'm sure I'll talk to you before the fall, but good luck if I don't talk to you on the mule deer and elk and all that. So
yeah. Cool. Congrats again.
Thank you, guys, and congratulations on everything you guys are doing, and good luck on the future hunt. Stay safe, and America first.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Weekend.
Yep. Take care, guys.
All right. See you, Eric. Bye.
Thank you.
All right. Eric's done a lot of cool things in his life. He's got that giant grizzly bear and stags from just been everywhere.
Africa. Yeah, you need to put up how people can get a hold of him. His bear bait business or whatever. Yep. Yeah, I always forget that. I'm awful about him. Awful host. Yeah, Trophy Adventure Bear Bait. And he has a pretty good business going on there. It must be good stuff. Obviously, I don't know anything about bear bait, but to do what he does, it's must be good stuff. I gotta go on a bear hunt sometime. It sounds so much fun. I love listening to you guys talk about strategy with your baits. I've never hunted anything over a bait. Get a point for Wisconsin this year? Yeah. Yep. Yeah. See how I do with this with the help I'm getting with the baiting. Maybe we'll have something coming up. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I'll test the waters. Yeah. Yeah, tee one up for me because I wouldn't know what I'm doing. I have to come up there and help you, but well, I got three established baits that are really good. Yeah, and me and Rick both pulled a tag, and Rick is excited as all get out. And I'm really just if we get a real big one working, that's what I'm interested in. I've killed a lot of bears. I think we'll get some big ones working, but I'd like to see Rick get a bear. But those baits, I mean, they're hot. So I'm just, I'm testing the waters with somebody helping me bait, and maybe even helping them getting into outfitting. But let's see how they do, and if they can handle it. Hopefully it doesn't cost me a fortune because I got, paying for gas and bait and all that kind of stuff. Oh, man. What is it up there right now? What's gas? It's like 5 1/4 right now. Yeah, that's about what it is here too. It's going to go up higher because it rapidly went to 5 1/4. Yeah. Yeah, it just sucks. Mm-hmm. Yep, for sure. Next week we're going to do this on Tuesday night instead of Thursday night, everybody. Just a heads up. I'm going on vacation at the end of next week, so we moved it to Tuesday night. Should we tell them who the guest is, Dan? I think that's start promoting it now. Yeah, why not? Aaron Warburton is coming on from the Hunting Public. That should be fun. So we're going to have Warb on.
So definitely bring your questions. Obviously, you guys all know the hunting public. Aaron was a big part of starting all that, and obviously it is what it is now. And those guys have way more experience than most of us, just because of the nature of what they do. So I think it's going to be cool with you and Orb on a podcast together, Dan. Chit chat.
Yeah, I really like Warp. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that.
Yep. It'll be the same time. It'll be 8 p.m. Eastern.
With his schedule, he don't go on very many podcasts, so he's really pulling me a favor by coming on here. So I appreciate that a lot. It should be
for sure.
Be fun.
Yep. I'm excited about it. So yeah, it'll be Tuesday next week. So be looking for the notifications earlier than Thursday. All right, guys, we're going to hop off here, and thanks again for hopping on, everybody. The chats were, as usual, there was 100 of them on here. If you hadn't subscribed yet, go ahead and do that for me. That'd be great. Leave a comment. Nobody called in. I was going to give away a shirt tonight, a sweatshirt. Look at this nice sweatshirt nobody got.
Oh, really? Jeez.
So I guess next week I'll give it away, maybe. Surely someone will call in with Warb being on. I get it, though. I think people like to listen to bear talk, but maybe not have the questions like the deer stuff. Anyway. All right, guys. Going to hop off here. Have a good night, everybody. Bye.
See ya.